A little girl who had not taken a single step in nearly 3 years suddenly broke free from her wheelchair, crossed a crowded charity garden in broad daylight, and threw herself into the arms of a quiet stranger no one seemed to notice. The applause stopped. Doctors stared in disbelief. Her billionaire mother turned pale as every certainty she had built her empire upon crumbled in front of her eyes. The child whispered something that no one else could hear, and the expression on the stranger's face revealed a lifetime of pain buried beneath extraordinary courage. Before we continue this unforgettable journey, if you believe kindness can heal broken hearts, forgiveness can change lives, hope should never be abandoned, and second chances deserve to be embraced, please take a moment to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit. Lenora Whitmore had spent 25 years building one of the largest medical technology companies in North America. Every magazine admired her discipline, every financial network praised her intelligence, and every business conference invited her to speak about resilience. Yet none of those accomplishments could silence the emptiness that followed her every morning. Her 12-year-old daughter, Cora, had suffered a devastating spinal injury after a terrible highway accident that had also taken the life of Lenora's husband. The world's finest surgeons had operated. The most advanced rehabilitation centers had welcomed her. Experimental therapies costing millions had been attempted. Every renowned specialist delivered the same heartbreaking conclusion. Cora would never walk again. The diagnosis slowly transformed Lenora into someone who believed every problem could be solved with enough money, enough research, and enough determination. She loved her daughter more than life itself, but she unintentionally filled every hour with appointments, evaluations, specialists, and expensive equipment while forgetting that healing also required laughter, friendship, peace, and ordinary moments. Cora smiled less with every passing season. She became quieter, staring out bright windows at children playing beneath warm sunshine, wondering what freedom felt like. That spring afternoon, Lenora reluctantly attended a community fundraiser supporting veterans and families recovering from traumatic injuries. Her advisors encouraged her appearance because her company had donated millions to the event. Cameras followed her through the beautifully decorated botanical gardens as volunteers welcomed guests beneath colorful flowers and tall oak trees. Everything happened under brilliant sunshine, with children laughing, musicians performing gentle melodies, and families enjoying the warmth of the day. Among the volunteers stood a single father named Garrett Holloway. His clothes were simple, his smile reserved, and his movements calm. Beside him was his 8-year-old son, Miles, who proudly helped distribute bottled water to elderly visitors. Very few people knew Garrett's story. Years earlier, he had served as a Navy SEAL on missions so dangerous they remained classified. During his final deployment, he had saved an entire rescue team by sacrificing his own career. Severe injuries forced him into retirement. He returned home carrying invisible scars, painful memories, and little desire for recognition. His wife later lost a difficult battle with cancer, leaving Garrett to raise Miles alone. Garrett never spoke about medals, secret operations, or heroic moments. Instead, he worked as a physical therapy assistant at a local rehabilitation clinic where he quietly encouraged patients who believed their lives had ended. He understood pain without asking others to explain it. He understood grief without pretending to erase it. Most importantly, he understood that hope could never be forced. It had to be gently rediscovered. As Lenora greeted donors and posed for photographs, Cora seemed distracted. Her eyes remained fixed on Garrett from across the garden. Something about his patient smile reminded her of her father before the accident. Garrett wasn't trying to impress anyone. He knelt to tie an elderly man's untied shoe, comforted a frightened child who had scraped her knee, and laughed warmly when Miles accidentally spilled lemonade onto his own shirt. Without warning, Cora asked her mother to stop pushing the wheelchair. Lenora assumed she wanted another photograph or needed a break from the crowd. Instead, Cora gripped the armrests tightly. Her breathing became deeper. Her fingers trembled. Several therapists nearby noticed unusual muscle activity in her legs. Before anyone understood what was happening, Cora pushed herself upward. Every doctor who had treated her insisted such movement was impossible. One unsteady step became 2. 2 became 5. Then, as tears filled her eyes, Cora stumbled forward before breaking into an awkward but determined run across the garden. People gasped. Phones fell silent. Medical specialists rushed forward, expecting her to collapse. Instead, she wrapped both arms around Garrett with complete trust, crying against his shoulder while the entire gathering stood frozen. Garrett gently supported her weight without surprise or panic. His steady hands instinctively protected her balance as though he had prepared for this moment his entire life. Lenora reached them moments later, overwhelmed with confusion, joy, disbelief, and fear all at once. She demanded to know how Garrett had done it, assuming he possessed some secret therapy or miracle technique. Garrett quietly explained that he had done nothing extraordinary. He simply knelt until he was at Cora's eye level. He looked directly into her frightened eyes. He smiled. Sometimes, he explained gently, people trapped by fear need to see someone who believes they are stronger than their fear before they believe it themselves. Doctors immediately evaluated Cora. They confirmed something remarkable. The neurological pathways they believed permanently damaged had shown unexpected activity for months. Tiny improvements had gone unnoticed because everyone focused only on dramatic results. Her body had slowly been healing, but overwhelming emotional pressure had prevented her confidence from growing alongside her physical progress. The moment she saw Garrett calmly helping strangers without expecting recognition, something deep inside her changed. She stopped thinking about failing and simply wanted to reach someone who made her feel safe. News of the astonishing event spread quickly across television and social media. Reporters called it a miracle. Scientists debated explanations. Investors praised Lenora's medical foundation. Garrett quietly returned to work the next morning. He declined interviews. He refused endorsement offers. He ignored people calling him a hero. Lenora, however, could not stop thinking about him. Curiosity slowly became respect. Respect gradually became friendship. She visited Garrett's rehabilitation clinic several times, not as a billionaire executive but as a worried mother seeking understanding. She observed something extraordinary. Garrett never promised impossible recoveries. He never exaggerated hope. He simply celebrated every tiny victory. A finger moving after months of stillness. A patient standing for 3 seconds longer. A veteran smiling after years of silence. A grieving parent laughing again. He understood that healing happened one quiet moment at a time. Meanwhile, Miles and Cora became close friends. They painted together, planted flowers outside the clinic, and encouraged each other through difficult therapy sessions. Cora laughed more in a few weeks than she had in several years. She no longer measured progress by how far she could walk. Instead, she measured it by how fully she could live each day. One afternoon beneath bright sunshine, Lenora asked Garrett why he never revealed his military background. He admitted that people often admired uniforms more than character. Once they learned he had been a Navy SEAL, they expected perfection instead of humanity. They overlooked his failures, loneliness, grief, and struggles as a widowed father. He wanted Miles to admire kindness before courage, compassion before strength. Those words lingered in Lenora's heart. She realized she had built an empire proving herself to strangers while quietly losing the simple connections that mattered most. Weeks later, Lenora discovered that Garrett's rehabilitation clinic faced permanent closure because of financial difficulties. Ironically, many wealthy donors preferred funding glamorous research projects rather than community therapy centers producing slow, personal victories. She could have written a check and solved the problem instantly. Instead, Garrett challenged her to do something much harder. He asked her to spend 1 month volunteering before making any financial decision. At first, the request seemed absurd. She was responsible for thousands of employees. Her schedule overflowed with international meetings. Yet something inside her accepted the challenge. For the first time in decades, Lenora served meals instead of attending banquets. She folded blankets instead of signing contracts. She listened to wounded veterans, exhausted caregivers, frightened children, and lonely parents whose stories would never appear in financial magazines. Each afternoon transformed her. She stopped introducing herself as a billionaire. She simply became Lenora. When the month ended, she understood Garrett's lesson completely. Money could build buildings. Only compassion could build families. Rather than purchasing the clinic outright, Lenora created an independent nonprofit partnership that guaranteed long-term funding while allowing therapists, veterans, volunteers, and local families to guide its mission together. Garrett reluctantly accepted leadership only after ensuring every decision remained focused on patients instead of publicity. Months passed beneath countless sunny afternoons filled with therapy sessions, children's laughter, outdoor gardening, family picnics, and rehabilitation programs. Cora continued improving beyond every expectation. She eventually walked without assistance across the same garden where everything had changed. Her steps remained careful, but every one of them represented courage instead of fear. Garrett never claimed responsibility for her recovery. He insisted she had found her own strength. Lenora finally agreed. Healing had begun long before that unforgettable embrace. The hug simply reminded everyone that hope sometimes arrives through ordinary people carrying extraordinary hearts. The opening ceremony for the expanded rehabilitation center attracted thousands of visitors. Reporters expected speeches celebrating innovation and wealth. Instead, Lenora stood beside Garrett, Miles, and Cora beneath bright afternoon sunlight and spoke from her heart. She admitted that losing her husband had convinced her life could only move forward through control. She believed enough money could eliminate every hardship. Garrett had shown her something infinitely more valuable. The strongest people were not those who carried the greatest power but those who quietly carried someone else's burden without asking for recognition. The audience stood in silent reflection before rising together in heartfelt applause. Just before we reach the end of this story, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe one act of genuine kindness can completely change another person's life, or tell us about someone whose compassion helped you find hope when you needed it most. As the celebration ended beneath the warm afternoon sun, Cora walked slowly across the garden once more. She held Miles' hand while Garrett and Lenora followed several steps behind. There were no cameras surrounding them anymore, no reporters searching for headlines, and no applause echoing through the flowers. There was only peace, quiet gratitude, and 4 lives forever connected by a single moment that reminded them all that miracles are not always flashes of impossible magic. Sometimes they begin with a patient smile, an open heart, and the courage to believe in someone long before they believe in themselves. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May we all remember that the greatest strength is not found in wealth, titles, or hidden accomplishments, but in choosing kindness when no one is watching, extending forgiveness when it feels impossible, and giving hope to those who have forgotten what tomorrow can become.